Alright, hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I know I haven't done a reading video in a while, but I should be doing a Scorpio tarot reading video in the next week or so, or yeah, within the week. But this is something new. We are doing a tutorial on how to solve unique Sudoku videos, or puzzles, sorry. So, I am a little bit nervous, but I wanted to do this video anyways for a few reasons. One being that I really have been wanting to show Sudoku to everyone on the channel, and two, a friend of mine wants to know how to solve these, so hopefully my friend watches this video and it's helpful. So first, I'm going to be looking at multiple examples of what unique Sudokus are. And I'll go ahead and just slowly go through these tabs, and you can take a look at all these different Sudokus for yourself. And I will go into what they all mean, what makes them different, how do they work, and finally on this video I will solve a Sudoku video or puzzle on screen. So yeah. And I will try and answer some questions that come up with my mind with all of this, which one is like, are they all the same type of difficulty, or how difficult are they to do? You can imagine they're sort of more challenging in a lot of ways, or just challenging in different ways than a classic Sudoku puzzle. So if any of you have seen a classic Sudoku puzzle, usually there are some numbers along this board or grid that are already filled out. Like there might be like a 1 and a 2 and a 2 and like a 3 and some more 3s and like a 4 and like a 6 all the way up to the digit 9. So something like this without these different dotted lines might be the type of Sudoku that you're all used to. You might not have, and let me press pause on the timers on these, but you might not have noticed, or you might not have known that there are Sudoku puzzles that start with no numbers. And I can already imagine my other friend, who's more open on social media, so I'll just give a shout out to one of my best friends, Lauren. If you're anything like me, which you are because Pisces power, but if you're anything like me, maybe your first impression is just like, how? How do you solve Sudoku with no given numbers? So that's what this video is for. It's to help you all get into it for any of you who are interested. Number one, I want to give a big shout out to this channel that I absolutely love. The channel is called Cracking the Cryptic. I'll go ahead and just show you all what the channel looks like. Here it is. It's featuring, on the left there, where my mouse is at, is Simon Anthony, I believe is his name, and on the right is Mark Good Life? Yeah, something like that. Hopefully I got their names correct and everything, but they are two absolutely wonderful people that solve mostly Sudoku puzzles, unique Sudoku puzzles, classic Sudokus, and sometimes some other types of puzzles as well. So they are both amazing people. They're incredible at what they do with their channel. It's so amazing, and this is how I got into all of this, and all of these puzzles I found through their channel. And the exciting thing about it is with each video that they have, you can literally go to the description and try the puzzle that they're doing on screen for yourself. So, highly recommend looking at their channel if any of you are interested in getting into this. But I went ahead and chose some that I thought would be really good to introduce what these puzzles are like. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, what are unique Sudokus? How do these work? What do all these symbols mean? And so forth. So there are some classic repeating types. There's something called like arrow Sudokus, which have these shapes on them. That has a circle, and then an arrow that points out from the circle. So this is a type of Sudoku puzzle that there's many different kinds and variations, and the tabs that I have set up are to help showcase all the different ways and all the infinite possibilities that these puzzles can be used. Because it's not just like, so from what everyone knows about Sudoku is that it's all kind of the same, so to speak. Normally a classic Sudoku, there's just digits 1 through 9, like traditionally. There's like some other variations like 1 through 6, like a 6x6 Sudoku or a 7x7, and so forth. But generally what people know about classic Sudoku is that it's a 9x9 grid, and then there's just numbers on it, and you just have to fill out the numbers. And if you don't know the regular rules to Sudoku, basically you are supposed to create, putting in the digits 1 through 9 in each of these boxes that I'm highlighting. Oops. So each of these have uniquely digits 1 through 9, no repeats. So if there's a 3 inside of this box, you cannot put another 3. And on this brilliant website that they have, it'll give you these error messages for if you mess that up. So you'll notice anywhere inside of a box that already has a 3 in it, you'll get this error. So that's just, these are just some quick rules about classic Sudoku. So if any of you have never heard of classic Sudoku even, this might not be the video for you. But if you already know about Sudoku, here we are with the unique ones. So a lot of the times they are no different than the classic ones in the sense that the rules are essentially the same in terms of like what you need for a solved puzzle. You need the digits 1 through 9 scattered throughout the grid pretty much, without repeating inside of boxes, inside of columns, and inside of rows. And at the end of this video when I solve one, you'll see how that all works, how every grid has unique digits with no repeating numbers along the grid, or the squares, along the rows and the columns. It'll be very, very cool, in my opinion. But yeah, so hopefully everyone here understands the rules to classic Sudokus. So also something you can do is read these green boxes that are going to be over on the right of the screen that will simply tell you the rules, but I'll go ahead and explain them anyways. So I'll read it. Digits along arrows must sum to the circled total. So in other words, if this circle was the number 8, these 3 digits right here along the arrow all have to sum up to the number 8. Yeah. And so I'll go over like here for an example. Oops, here, sorry. So if I put a 1 and a 7, this is a valid possibility because 1 plus 7 equals 8. If I put a 2 and a 7, this is incorrect because 2 plus 7 equals 9. But if I got rid of this 8 and put in a 9, that would once again be a valid possibility. As you can imagine, there are many different possibilities that could go into here. 4 and 2 to equal 6. So that is how this entire puzzle works. That's all you have to go off of. That these must, it basically adds new rules on top of what you already know about Sudoku. So this is one example of a unique Sudoku, and there are many different arrow Sudokus out there that can get a lot more complex, many of which don't even have any numbers on them, but these are supposed to be some intro Sudokus that are supposed to be more approachable, doable for people who are just getting into the unique Sudokus. And I do understand that this probably still seems like impossible to some of you, possibly. But there will be one that is a much more approachable one, in my opinion, that I think might be something that could be like a good first step. And then as for my tips on to how to get better at these, or how to even do these at all, I do believe if you watch the videos, or if you try them for yourself, if you genuinely give it a try, you might surprise yourself. You might surprise yourself in realizing that you can solve these. Yeah, there's also a timer if you're interested in seeing how long it takes for you to solve the puzzles. I often forget the timer's even on, or I'll pause it to go do something and I'll come back and forget to resume. So only sometimes have I actually managed to see how long it really takes for me to do certain puzzles, but it varies. But yeah, so this is one classic unique Sudoku. There's certain rules that are like, that happen a lot, and then they'll do variations of it, and they can get even more creative from there. And even you, a viewer, for example, could just create a brand new rule and create your own Sudoku board. I have no idea how to do that, but basically I'm just saying, like, there's no set rules for these unique Sudokus, and all these different ones I'm going to show are just us, like, not even a fraction of all the different types out there. So, but I did try to pick the most common ones and then a few really creative, less common ones. So here's another common one, which is called Killer Sudoku. These are called killer cages. You'll notice that they have these dotted lines that form the shape of like cages or areas confined. So it says digits inside of a cage cannot repeat and must sum to the total given. So, for example, this cage over here is a 3-cell cage. I'll also get into how to use this website and how to use the numbers over here, the coloring. You can kind of just try it out, and it gets intuitive from there. But I'll go into why for example, there's this way of putting a 5, but there's this way of putting a 5. I'll explain why these two different ways are on here, and it's just so you can make multiple notes, essentially. When you're certain of something, you basically use the large digit, and this is like plugging in your final answer, so to speak. So I'll get into all of that at the end of this video. I will try and provide a link to all of these puzzles down below. So the first one here is called Some More Arrow by Philip Newman. It should be the first link. Here we've got Dead or Alive by Philip Newman as well. I'm going to continue explaining this. So this cage up here has the digit 6, the number 6 up there. That means the 3 numbers that are inside of this cage have to total to the number 6. So if I put a 1 here and a 2 there and a 3 here, this is a valid solution so far because 1 plus 2 equals 3, and 3 plus 3 equals 6. So another example is this cage right here has to sum up to 20. So if I put like a 9 and an 8, 9 plus 8 equals 17. So I need to put a 3 here so that 9 plus 8 plus 3 will all total to the number 20. And that's only one possibility. I could put 8 and 7. 8 plus 7 equals 15, so now I could put a 5, or I shouldn't say obviously, but these can go in different orders. This is still the same combination of 8, 7s, and 5, just in different order. I can put a 5 up here, and I can put the 7 there. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter what order, just in case if any of you were wondering that. The time that it does matter is that at the end of the puzzle, when you have to have non-repeating digits everywhere, you do need to make sure you choose the right order. So how do you do that? You have to go through a series of steps, which if any of you are familiar with doing classic Sudokus, you might kind of know a little bit of where to start, which is where you put in these clue numbers that you know that something could be a 1 or it could be a 5, and you start filling in clues until you can logic it out. So these are killer cage Sudoku puzzles. Here is one example that varies, that uses something that is common or whatever. Killer Sudoku is pretty common and regular out there. And this is an example of how people can take a rule and change it into something completely different. So instead of killer cages that tell you the sum of the digits inside of the cages, and by the way, if any of these rules don't make any sense or anything like that, try not to be discouraged. every puzzle is different. Some will be more easily understood than others. So long as there's any of these that are making sense, I think that counts. And even if they don't make sense, totally okay too. I think if you truly are interested in doing Sudoku or anything like that, that you can do it. It's just a matter of how you get started, and maybe even having like a good guide system, or like helpful teachers, so to speak, or a nice tutorial on YouTube. I think Cracking the Cryptic has a lot of really nice tutorials on these mostly challenging Sudokus. They do a lot of really challenging ones, so it's hard to find the more approachable ones on that channel sometimes. But yeah, so an example of how this takes the killer cage Sudoku, which just pretend that you already know that it's totally regular. You've done so many killer Sudokus now. You've solved so many ones with the cage and how they sum up to the number in the corner. And yes, you've done 20,000 of these. I don't know. You get my point. So this is completely different because this one says text in the top left corner of a cage shows the digits that appear in that cage. So it's no longer talking about the sum. This number 1788 is telling me that there is a 1, a 7, an 8, and an 8 inside of this cage, this cage right here, in any particular order, so long as it works with normal Sudoku rules. So see how I have 2 8s inside of a box. So this solution does not work. Something that I can show you all here is some example of how you can rule something out, like, well, where do they go? Well, you cannot put 2 8s inside of one box, so they don't go anywhere in here. And you can't put even 2 8s right here because they're in the same row. So basically you can reason out that one of the 8s has to go down here and the other 8 has to go here, because there's literally nowhere else they can go for you to be able to place 2 8s inside of this cage without breaking the rule. The difference now with the 1s and 7s is you can't assume they go in either way. It can go this way, it could go that way, you don't know. So here I would just select 1 and 7 as notes and put them down. And then I pretty much go around the cage and do the same thing. Over here you have to have a 1, a 2, and a 2, and a 3. I know that the 2s have to go in different boxes. So one of the 2, and by boxes I mean grids. There's 2 grids that this cage is a part of. So one of the 2s has to go into this grid. The other 2 has to go somewhere in this grid. And it can't go anywhere in here because then it's in the same column as that 2. So I put it over there. And once again, the last digits that are remaining are 1s and 3s. Here's a beautiful example of showing how now I've ruled something out. Because 1s and 7s go over here, one of these is going to be a 1 no matter what. And once I put a 1 in either spot, it rules out the possibility of 1s being anywhere along this entire row. So even though I may not know which of these 2 is a 1, I know 1s cannot go anywhere to the left of this box, if that makes sense. So this cannot be a 1 anymore, which rules it out as definitely becoming the 3, and this is a 1. While this does not help me solve the 1 and 7 conundrum, the 1 and 7 conundrum helped me solve the 3 and 1 conundrum over here. So that's just a brief example of how you start to solve these Sudokus that don't even have any like real digits starting on the grid. So very, very cool how someone took killer Sudoku and turned it into a completely new rule. So something else is these thermos. And I know this may seem overwhelming. I just want to really showcase the majority of common unique Sudokus. These are the ones that you can expect to see a lot of. Maybe not this specific one where there are, like, it tells you the specific digits inside of a cage, but cages themselves you'll see a lot. And the most common form is this one, where the cage refers to a sum inside of it. And sometimes it'll let you know that digits cannot repeat in a cage. Sometimes a cage that goes like over here between 2 grids, you could put like a 1 and a 1 because it doesn't break the rule, if that makes sense. but maybe this is becoming too complicated if any of you are new to this. I know maybe I might be doing the opposite of helping by overwhelming people out there. Please try not to get too overwhelmed. Try and stick with me till the end if this is interesting to you. So, I'll just go back to where I was with the thermo, which I'll just get a little quicker with these rules here. This is saying along a thermometer, digits must increase from the bulb. So this is the bulb. These circles are bulbs. If you put a number starting, let's say at 1, from this point on, digits have to increase from there. So let's say I put like, yeah, a 1. This has to be a 2 or a 3 or a 4. If I put like a 3, I can't put a 2 in here because that's decreasing. I have to put something higher, like a 4. This could be a 6. They don't have to be 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't have to increase one after the next, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can increase in higher ranges. So like instead of putting a 1 and then having to put a 2, I could put like 6. And instead of having to put a 7, the very next number increased, I could put an 8 or I could put a 9. It's, so long as it increases at all, you're satisfying the thermostat rule. So that's Thermo Sudoku, which is a different, unique type. And there are plenty of these. Again, these are the common ones. Here's an example of combining different common ones. So here we've got Killer Cage Sudoku with Thermo Sudoku. So this is telling me that I have to have digits that increase along the thermostat as well as the digits that increase along it must sum to the digit inside of the that's listed in the cage. So 1, 2, and 3 would not work because even though it satisfies the thermostat rule, 1, 2, and 3 do not sum up to the number 14. It's too small. I would need some other combination. So this is an example of putting together different common unique Sudokus or combining rules. Because up till this point I've shown you all for pretty much just one rule added on. As you can see, each of these has one different unique rule. This one has arrows, that's its unique rule. This one's got the killer cages. This one has a different rendition of cages, a different way of using cages, a different rule. And this one is thermostats. Again, all of these only had one unique rule to them. This combines rules. So as you can see, people can combine as many different combinations of rules as they want. So moving on from this one, this is one other rendition of the thermostat rule, which is that now on top of the thermostat, or rather it's even that there's just a new rule, which is that on top of these thermostats, there are squares and circles. And the squares, so if you read the rules, it lets you know that gray circles contain odd digits. So this has to be a 1 or a 3, a 5, 7, or a 9. Gray squares must contain even digits, 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then the thermostat rules are the same. They increase starting from the bulb. The bulbs are highlighted by these sort of pink color, if you can see the tint. But I'll go ahead and add an extra color to them. So these are the starts of the bulbs. And it's like, wow, how do you do this with no numbers? Once you just try it, or if you watch a video on someone trying it, then of course you'll see the logic of how it's solvable. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. So here we've got a different one, a different rule that has these circles. These circles are somewhat common as well. It's starting to approach the less common zone. So the rule is a value inside of a white circle shows the largest digit that appears in the 4 cells surrounding that circle. So in other words, this circle has a digit 4. So the largest number I could put in these 4 cells is the digit 4. So if I put a 5 here, this breaks that rule because it's larger than 4. So how this helps me is the only digits that are at most 4 are 1, 2, 3, and 4. The rest of the digits in Sudoku are too large. In other words, these have to be a 1, 2, 3, or 4. However, because I'm inside of this grid, and we've already used the 1 and the 3 that are given right away, they cannot be 1s and 3s at this point, because that would create a repeating digit inside of this Sudoku box somewhere. So these must be a 2 or a 4. And you pretty much go around trying to find like that kind of reasoning as you solve this Sudoku. So that is this one. Here we've got a rendition of that, which this one, so we have a few different things going on here. But I'll read the circle rule. Digits in a white circle must appear in the 4 surrounding cells. So this one, instead of telling you the maximum number that can fit in a cell, it tells you the exact 4 digits. We know a 2, a 3, a 6, and an 8 must appear inside of here. A 5, a 6, an 8, and a 9 must appear inside of this set of 4 digits. In any particular order. I just put in random order. And that's pretty much this one. So as you can see, this is kind of like a variation of these white circles. So it's just very interesting how creative these puzzle setters are. I'm so impressed. But yeah. And then there's a different rule going on here that you can read it, and if it's confusing, don't worry too much about it. I know this is a lot of information, a lot of different types. This is only for those of you out there who are like, I've been looking for something like this, you know? Something really fun, engaging, involves logic, like, makes you feel really, like, rewarded for being able to solve it. I don't know, I just feel so good when I'm able to solve, like, these puzzles. You feel, like, really creative and clever and like a detective, you know? So, yeah, if this is your thing, to any of you out there, I'm really thrilled to introduce this to the channel. I'd really love to hear some comments if anyone was able to watch this whole video. I'd really appreciate it. We're getting towards the end of the video. I'm going to go ahead and skip over these 2 ones because these are basically the puzzles I'm going to solve. I'm going to solve one of them on screen. And yeah, hopefully you all stuck around. I might split this into 2 videos even, and if any of you want to actually see me solving one of these to kind of see the process of how to actually go about solving it. No, I'll put that in this video because I literally titled it How to Solve Unique Sudoku Puzzles. So I should show how to solve one. Obviously, there's no quick answer. I just wanted to give my version of a brief video on how to solve these. So I'll get into these ones, but here are some that are very unique. These are not common. Actually, this one is common somewhat, but it is still, yeah, this actually shows up quite a lot. So basically, this is a unique one where there are these lines. There's a purple line and a green line. The reason why they're 2 different colors, they're not different rules. It's just to help you see that there are 2 different lines on this puzzle. And then here we've got a killer cage, 1 random killer cage. So this could be like a 4 and a 5. So total up to that 9 that's in the corner right there. So what are these lines, if any of you are curious? Digits next to each other on a line have a difference of at least 5. So that means if I put a 3 on this line right here, this digit right next to it has to be at least 5 away from it. So I can't put a 4 because those are 1 away. A 5, the difference between 5 and 3 is 2. The difference between 6 and 3 is 3. 7 3 is different is 4. The difference between 8 and 3 is 5. So I could put an 8 right next to a 3 because they are at least 5 apart mathematically. I could also put a 9. So keep in mind that it doesn't have to be exactly 5 apart. It has to be at least 5 apart. So I put a 1 here. This has to be at least a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9. The same applies to the one next to it on this pink line. It has to be a 6, 7, 8, or 9. If I put a 6 here, this has to be at least 5 apart from it. There's actually only one combination that's 5 digits away from a 6, which is actually the digit 1. If you test that out for yourself, you'll see 7 is 1 apart, 8 and 9, they're all too close to 6. So, including 5, 4, 3, and 2. 2 and 6 are only 4 apart, so anytime a 6 falls on this line, you know that 1s have to go next to it as a random thing. A random like rule that I've learned about these lines. So yeah, normally the lines are like green lines a lot of the time, but obviously the color of the line doesn't matter, it's the rule. So that is this one. That's the whole puzzle. And this is the first one I got into, which is called Skyscraper Sudoku. And here's an example that is really unique, way less common. Skyscraper Sudoku is apparently pretty common, but I think this exact version, for me, I haven't ever seen this type of Sudoku. So maybe it's common to someone out there, but not to me. So there are digits on the outside of the grid, and these digits represent how many skyscrapers you can see from that angle. So the 5 that's right up here tells you can only see 5 skyscrapers along this column from that direction. And what these skyscrapers are, I'll explain soon. So this 5 right over here says I can only see 5 skyscrapers looking down from this direction. So the skyscrapers are represented by the digits inside of the Sudoku grid. So the digit 1 is a skyscraper of height 1. The 3 is 3 Sudoku digits tall. 6 is 6 tall. So these are the heights of the skyscrapers. If you put a skyscraper of the height 9 at the very front of this digit, assume that digit was you, a person looking down a row or a column of buildings. If you put this 9 building, you cannot see any of the towers behind it, the skyscrapers behind it, because they're all shorter than this skyscraper. So you can imagine there's this tall one, and then all the ones are shorter in some order. So this breaks the rule because I can only see 1 skyscraper from this direction. If I were to like look from where that 5 is standing down at this row, going this way, you can only see 1. Over on the opposite side, I can see a 5 as the very first tower, of course. Then the 2 is shorter, so I cannot see that one coming from this angle. And the 4 is also shorter than a 5. So here's an example of how I can still only see 1 skyscraper so far. But 7 is 2 inches or whatever meters taller than the number 5. So now I've officially seen 2 skyscrapers. The 8 is taller than a 7, so now I've seen 3 skyscrapers, and 1, 6, and 3 are all smaller than 8, so I can't see those. But 9 is the very tallest skyscraper. So from this angle, I'm able to see 4 skyscrapers. And that's pretty much the rule. That's the main rule on this puzzle. The last one is an interesting one, which has these pink strips, or whatever color they are. And they are on the first 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the 9th column, which is why it's called 1, 5, 9 skyscraper. That's the name of the puzzle, and that's why. And what these strips represent in these digits is that whatever digit is in the 1s column, if I put a 7, that says the number 1 appears in the 7th row. So if I put a 7 here, I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over and place a 1. So if I put a 5 here, or maybe a 3, I have to go 1, 2, and 3 over and place a 1 there. So that's what these ones, that's what the pink strips here represent. They represent like an index. They tell you where the digit 1 goes horizontally in that spot. How much to go that way, pretty much. Now, same thing here with the 5s. If I place a 3, it's saying starting from the beginning of this row here, I put a 5 in the 3rd spot. So I would go 1, 2, 3 and place a 5 here. Another example, if I place the 9, I would go all the way to the 9th column here and place a 5 there. If I put an 8, I would actually go to the 8th one. So this, if it's just an example of filling this out. Here's an example. So hopefully that makes sense. This 2 means that I put a 5 on the 2nd row. This 4 means I put a 5 on the 4th row. This 8 means I put a 5 on the 8th row. And the same rule will apply over here with the 9s. If I place a 3 here, I have to place a 9 in the 3rd column, whatever. Row, column. Rows and columns confuse me. But yeah, if I place like a 6, I have to go to the 6th one and place a 9 there. And that is the entire thing. So if I put a 1 here, that's saying the first spot I put a 5. Obviously this is also on a pink strip. And this pink strip, since it represents 1s, tells me I need to go to the 5th slot over and place a 1. You'll see how they match, that they work. The rule works both ways perfectly. So it's very unique. So that is essentially all of them. And this is the last one, which is actually maybe just a whole extra layer, which basically this is telling you that you need to imagine a length of 5 shapes. You may have seen these shapes. They're called pentominos. You may not have heard pentominos, the word, but you might have seen these shapes. They are shapes that are made up of 5 units long, and they look like this. You'll notice these are all 5 units long shapes. And these are called the 12 pentominos, pretty much, because these are every single combination of a set of setting 5 squares, pretty much, next to each other. You cannot come up with any other variation. If you do, it's just the same one rotated. So like, for example, this is not a new variation because it's just a rotated version of that. So something that people do is called also like a Pentomino Sudoku, where you have to draw out shapes of the pentominos along the grid. So very, very interesting. These are all pentominos that I'm coloring on the grid. If you want to read this, if you want to try and understand it, feel free. I might explain this one in a future video if down the road everyone's like really on board with all this and everything made sense. I really have no idea, because I know this stuff can be really confusing to some people out there, to like anyone even, I suppose. But with that in mind, I just want to reassure all of you out there that whether this is something you can follow or not does not say anything about who you are or how amazing you are. Like, if this is confusing to you, please know that there's nothing wrong with that, and that doesn't mean that like, I don't even like want to say it, but I just know that like sometimes things that are like brain puzzles or brain stuff, that people can feel like smart or stupid, quote unquote, you know? Greater than or less than another, stuff like that. This applies in all things in life: music, video games, art, just anything. And I'm just tired of all that kind of stuff, like competition and like feeling less than or greater than compared to people, stuff like that. So I just want to let you all know that you are all beautiful and you're all geniuses in your own unique way. And I don't mean that in just like a cheesy way. I do truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. But all that being said, I am going to officially solve one of these Sudokus. Before I do, I'm going to look at how long this video has been going for. I just have to find it on my channel, pretty much. Don't know how to access my live stream since it's unlisted right now. So I might be unable to actually even access this until I finish this live stream pretty much. I really hope it's streaming to my channel. I kind of actually have no idea if it is. Yes, it is. Perfect. Okay, I found access to it, so I'm gonna go there right now and take a look. Okay, not too bad. 40 minutes. I know it's a while, but yeah. Also, I zoomed in the camera so it's easier to see me. I know I don't have the best setup and the best camera, view, angle, everything, but please bear with me that when I am in a different situation in my life, I will definitely be upgrading everything I can on this channel and really put more work into it pretty much. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start solving. So I'm going to show you all how I solve a puzzle. So I will also disclaim, I have already solved this one, so this isn't like me solving a brand new puzzle for the first time on camera, but I will walk through how to solve it. So this is called Anti-Win Doku. It's sort of a joke or a response to some other puzzler, setter, who created theirs called Win Doku. So we are going to be solving Win Doku, and I'll read to you the rule. So, normal Sudoku rules apply. Also, the digits 1 through 9 must each appear exactly once in each shaded region. This actually isn't the puzzle that I wanted to show. I'm sorry. Let me find it. Sudoku. There it is. Okay, I found it. But yeah, that's basically like it's adding an extra Sudoku grid or a block into the puzzle, if that makes sense. So it's really, really cool. And I'd love to solve this one as well, but yeah, I am going to solve this one. Also, to my friend, if you either skipped ahead to this part or if you just watched through all of that, oh no! Ah! It has it solved on here. Oh, 1 second. I'm so sorry. The reason why I'm even in incognito was because I thought it wouldn't save the progress of my my puzzle, but it did. So that took me a while to even notice that it was solved. I was just like spacing out while talking to the camera, but I was gonna say I'm gonna start solving it to show how you get into solving this one, where to start, and after that, if any of you want to pause and solve this for yourself, absolutely feel free. If you want to try any of the other puzzles, I have links to those in the description box below as well. And yeah, so I'll read to you these rules. So normal Sudoku rules apply. In addition, the 3 shaded shapes must contain exactly the same digits in the same places. So that means if I place the 9 right here, all shaded regions must have a 9 in the exact same place. It could even be that my friend wasn't even sure exactly what the rules were meaning, because they can be confusing, because it's like reading the rules for the first time and like not getting to see someone show examples to verify and help reassure you that you understand the rules, because something important about these is understanding the rules, which is why I went so in depth with all of these other ones, so that any of you who are curious to try any of them, that you feel more reassured in reading the green boxes. Because even now I'll read certain ones and I'm like, what? And I have to watch Mark or Simon do a puzzle on cracking the Cryptic so that they explain the rule, and I'm like, oh, okay. And there's even sometimes where they'll explain the rule and I still don't get it. But anyways, now that I've explained these shaded regions, let's get into it. So I obviously don't actually remember, oh yeah, this is a 5, 6, 7, 9. Like, I don't have the grid memorized, so I actually do sort of have to solve it again. But pretty much, I just kind of start picking numbers or looking at data. So one thing I know is that when I start filling out notes, if I put notes in, I might also want to start, before I get started, I might want to explain to you all how to use these. And I can go more into depth with these in the future if any of you want to know how I use these and what for. But again, this big block here is the answer button, where you can place answers by either using this numpad over here, or you can press the numpad on your keyboard. That's what I like to do a lot of the time. Arrow keys help you move around, but you can click as well. You can click and drag. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do here, but just kind of play around with it and you'll sort of learn. There's a color coding that you can click. You can highlight squares and then click a color and it'll color it in. You can even put multiple colors like that. You have to go into the settings gear and click the multicolor mode button. It usually starts normally off. So if I try pressing a different color, it just changes it now. See? So that is the only rule or setting that I know on this entire thing. I don't know any of the other ones, so that's the extent of that. But yeah, I can highlight all of these, and I can click this one, which represents clearing any color. Also, if you press the color again, it'll reset it. It'll even do it with mixed colors. So if I put numerous colors, I can click them and it'll start erasing the existing ones. Yeah. And you can hold the control button and click so you can select specific ones. There's all sorts of stuff you can do to have an easier time using all of this. And then finally we have these two different notes. There's the center notes and there's these corner notes. So the corner notes will put the notes in the corners, on the edges, like that, all around. Yeah. The center notes places them all in the center, in numerical order. So they go in numerical order. If you place a 5 and then you put like a 2, it's not going to put a 2 next to it or whatever. It's going to put a 2 before it. It automatically puts the numbers that you press in numerical order. I'll click them over here so you can all see. Here I'm clicking a 7, so yeah. And that's pretty much how those all work. And the reason why there's two different types of notes is just to help you keep track of more things. But this particular puzzle doesn't require as much note-taking, luckily. By the way, the reason why I'm choosing this one is so if any of you would like to try it, I believe this is the most doable of every puzzle I showed you so far. All of these, I think if I were to pick the easiest one, it would be this one. No, sorry. The one we're doing. Here we are. Yeah, this one. Because you'll start to notice that a lot of the work gets taken care of for you as you continue to solve it. So, what I mean is, we'll get into it. So, if you click and hold a number, it'll highlight all of the existing numbers on the screen. So I like to click and hold a digit. Here the 1 interferes with this row, so no 1 can go up there. And then here, I'll hold the shift key. The 1 is down here, so no 1 can go in the column. So 1s cannot go anywhere in here. If you try, it'll give you an error. So I'm going to put the 1s pretty much right here. The great news about this is now I can copy these notes into every single grid. And that's the whole trick. I think from here on, if any of you go ahead and explore and just start putting on the notes, you might find that you can solve this entire Sudoku by yourself. So if you want to try it all by yourself at this point, go ahead and pause the video or quit the video and click on the link in the description below for Clone Sudoku is the title of this one by Sam Kappelman Lines. And yeah, you can try it for yourself. But so after I've copied these, here, that same one that only ruled it out right here actually also rules out these notes right here. So I can remove these notes. And that means I can remove them from all of them as well. So this is what I mean by how I feel this one is easier than all the other unique ones, because this one actually kind of is meant to make Sudoku itself easier and more accessible for you than like a classic Sudoku even. So yeah, so I'm just going to keep on filling out the grid the way that I have been. So here, the 2's cannot go anywhere there, so I fill it out like this. Then I start filling that out along all the other boxes because they're all identical. Once again, the 2 is now crossing out a digit over there, so I'm going to fill that out. This 2 happened to cross out the same one. If it was placed somewhere else and crossed out another, that would have been beautiful. But yeah, I'm going to continue with the 5's. So here I see them interfering in numerous places. If that gets confusing for you, just start on one of them. Just start on one and just hopefully like you can like piece it together. So like see here I see that these 3 cannot be a 5. I see that these 3 cannot be a 5. So I can imagine those 3 not being a 5 in one box for myself. Like transferring that over there. So I now know the 5's have to go into a box of this kind of a shape. Once again, this 5 is going to interfere with that. So I'll just start step by step. So I place the 5's. As you can see, it's already getting confusing, so I might change it to this one so I can see it a little bit easier. So I put the 5's there, and I'm now going to replicate that across all other ones. Here, this crosses out those 5's. So I'm going to cross it out along all of them as well. You can imagine as you do these more, or some of you already can skip most of these steps and combine them all together. And if so, good job. But if that's not you, don't worry. You can go step by step how I'm doing it. Or in your own unique way. And you don't have to start with 1, 2, and 5. This is just one way I'm solving it at this moment. Sometimes I don't start with 1's and work my way up. Because again, there's many of these that have no digits. But yeah, for the sake of tutorial, I'm just kind of walking through this one. So here, this 5 crosses out that one. Here, oh, and let me erase them from all of them. And here, this 5 is crossing out that top one, which now, we now have 5 in only one cell inside of these shaded areas, which means we have our first numbers. Officially, those have to be 5's for all of the reasoning that we just worked out. The 1's and 2's played absolutely no role in that, just in case if any of you were wondering if those interlap somehow. They do not. But yeah. So now I move on to 6's. I mean, I'm feeling kind of like 7's even, or 8's. They all look helpful. But I'm going to start with 6's now. So here, the 6's cross out all of that. So now, I'm going to put 6's in here. And I'll do the corners again. The corner digits, or whatever. And by corners, I mean instead of putting center digits, I'll put corner digits. Yeah. So yeah, we've got all those filled out. This 6 crosses out this, which I could start with that and then like delete them all and then keep working my way up. But I can find a shortcut right here, right now, because this 6 on this side, if you go all the way up, it removes 2 of the 3 6's. Which now guarantees me the 6's. Ta-da! And now we do 7's, and yeah, I literally just keep working my way like so. So, this might look a little confusing, so I'm just going to start like this. La 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 la. I'm gonna cross out that, and I'm gonna cross out this, and finally I'm gonna cross out that. And here's where some magic happens. Now that I know that these are 7s, it removes the option of the 2s for me. Before I was like, how do you know which one is a 2? And now it's like, this one's totally a 2. So yeah. And yep. All of a sudden, we have a lot more digits filled out. So I might start moving on to the 3s. But I'm just going to keep working my way up. So we did 7s, next is the 8s. So here, most of it is already crossed out. It's one of these 2 digits that has to be an 8. And down here, this crosses out one of them. So it's the center that has to be an 8 along all the shaded areas. I'd say if there was one thing that could be difficult to keep track of, would be reminding yourself to put the digit into all 3 shaded regions. You might forget, and the puzzle can become more difficult if you forget to place all the repeats. But if you do remember to place them in all of the boxes, it really helps. So finally, there's 9s, but there are no 9s on the grid. So I can pretty much just start over. In fact, I don't even know how I skipped like the 3s to begin with, because I did 1s and 2s, and I didn't do 4s or 3s, but that doesn't really matter. Like, that doesn't change the fact that these are all the correct digits. So let's go ahead and do 4s, because I'm seeing that the 4 crosses out a lot. And yeah. And this, wow, crosses out one of them, which leaves us with an answer. All the 4s, are there. Hopefully I'm not going too quick when I like dash across and place the number. I should probably log what I'm doing a little bit better. So hopefully you're all following along. So those are where the 4s go, and then I'm going to go ahead and try to see if the 3s go anywhere. I can see that the 3s go in one of these 2 boxes. So we have 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and 7s, and 8s. And then finally, 9s, which can literally go into any of those, since we don't have 9s anywhere on the grid to tell us where they go. So now, what do? Well, since we have this filled out, we can probably start finding where other digits go along just regular Sudoku boxes. So I'm going to start with the 7s. This 7 crosses out those. Something that I find helpful is literally clicking and dragging and like creating these lines where I like cross out possibilities, so you don't have to like visualize it all in your mind. You can just literally see what you're visualizing, if that makes sense. So 7s cannot go anywhere except for there. So yeah. Maybe down here. So as you can see, I'm left with 2 different spaces that a 7 could be. I could start filling them out right away, but for now, I'm gonna look for places that I can guarantee myself 2 next to each other spaces, like non-awkward spaces. So like what I mean by that is like, see how a 7 can go in one of these 2 corners basically? That is sort of awkward. It can be helpful, so I could leave it, but if you start filling up the board with too many notes, you can overwhelm yourself and just end up confusing yourself. So for now, I'm not going to put that note there, but if any of you feel like putting a note there, if any of you choose to do this, or you want to follow along with your own Sudoku board, you can definitely leave those notes there if you would like to. It could come in handy. You really never know. So yeah, here I'm crossing out all the places that 6s cannot go, so I know a 6 goes here. So most of what I'm doing right now is what you see in basically classic Sudoku. So I just love that even though these are unique, you're still doing Sudoku puzzles. I don't know, it's just really fun. So here's a really good spot because these 6s cross out all of these digits here, so it has to be one of those. Here's what I call a non-awkward spot to put the digits for notes, because this could be very useful information, knowing that it's like one of the two right next to each other. It's about just as useful as this, but there are other puzzles where this is definitely more useful of a clue than this. It really just depends though. Obviously this is just one of many puzzles, so here's an example of how it gets less helpful. Like, whoa, I have no idea. That's 4 different places it could go, so I might not actually do that one. So yeah. Now I'm gonna move on to pretty much anything that just calls out to you. Anything that seems interesting. You really do have to just try things out until something kind of just works, pretty much. Like, I know a 2 goes in there. Not very helpful yet. Pretty much just trying to find anything that helps. This is beautiful because 4s have to go in here. The amazing thing about that is now I know exactly where 4s and 6s go. So that later, before this point, before I knew 4s went in there, for example, this 1 would tell me that a 1 has to go in any of these spots. That's a lot of spots. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 different spots. However, with what I just discovered, that make these exact 2 cells have to be 4 and 6. That means no other cell can go in there. So before, when I would have had a note in here, I can't have that note in here anymore. That might be a difficult concept. It can be really confusing, especially in different examples on Sudoku. But just take my word on that. And pretty much the more you practice and do these for yourself, the more these logic and rules and things will kind of just make more sense to you on a personal level. So it's all like a journey of your own, like, self-discovery and growth. It's really beautiful. But basically before, 1s could not go up here. But now that I know this has to be a 4 or a 6 and nothing else, 1s can also not go there. So now I can fill out less digits. And that's very, very helpful, especially over time. Maybe before I couldn't... I still can't solve where the 7s go in here. But yeah, I might just start filling out some more digits just because. Yeah, this one is very interesting to me because the 5s have to go somewhere here. Oops. And this is going to be helpful to me because if I do this again with a different box right below it, see how one of these has to be a 5? Because this 5 crosses out that 5 crosses out this, and this 5 over here crosses out, what the heck, that. Let me redraw that. So these are the only places a 5 can go. However, because a 5 is confined to here in this strip, one of these 2 places, it's going to cross out all 5s down here anyways. So even though I don't know which of these is a 5, either place that it's definitely going to go is going to block out strips down in this same column. Which means this cannot be a 5. Which now I know this is. This is just so cool. I love Sudoku. Okay. Oh, cool. This is all answered for me. The 5 goes right there. If you can see that 5 crosses out that whole column, this whole column's crossed out, and this crosses out that whole row. So, and this solves this conundrum over here, where this is now a 5. And now we have 1s and 7s confined over here. 1s cannot go anywhere else. 7s also cannot go anywhere else. So we have so many digits in here theoretically. We have a 1 somewhere in here, a 2 and a 3, a 4 somewhere in here, a 5, a 6, a 7, and the last 2 digits that we're missing are 8s and 9s, which must go into these empty corners. It's pretty cool. Yeah. And for now, that's not the most helpful. But an 8 goes down here, which is helpful. Here's something completely different. So, much how I've been doing that, here's a completely different thing to keep in mind. So you know how you must have digits 1 through 9 inside of a box, or inside of a column, or inside of a row? So like if I just filled out random digits in here, I'm going to undo all of this. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to undo all of those. Oops. You can apply that everywhere. These have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 have to go somewhere in here, and so forth. So take a look at this column. We have almost all of that. We have a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, and an 8, which means the only digits that are missing in this entire row are a 1, then we have a 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We need a 7, we have an 8, and then we need a 9. So 1, 7s, and 9s are the last missing numbers in here. In fact, I just accidentally didn't even see that this 3 crossed out that one. We actually did have the 3 solved the whole time. It actually goes right there. But pretty much what I'm gathering from all this is that the 1s and 9s have to go here. And 7 can only go here, and you have to have a 7 in this row somewhere. But they can't go anywhere in here because we already have a 7 inside of this box. So if I place a 7 down here, it would break that rule and this rule. So the 7 goes here even though, so if you see how I worked that out, which is that even though I don't know if this was a 1 or a 7, because it could be a 1, it actually has to be a 7 because 7 cannot go anywhere else. And we need a 7 to go inside of this row horizontally. Pretty cool. Which crosses out the 7 here, which means this is in fact a 1. It's so cool. Okay. Now that we have that these are 3s, I can actually fill out all the 3s. And I can remove any notes of 3s inside of these gray boxes, leaving us with 1-9 combos. I'm gonna see, so one of these is a 3, we're missing 6s, that's not the most helpful quite yet. Can we do anything with 7s? Sadly, not really. Not yet, but, oh yeah, before I said that it had to go in one of these 2 spots, but I totally missed this 7 over here. So actually we know for a fact that this is a 7. That's so funny. I'm wondering if some of you are watching and like at times where you've seen me basically make mistakes. I'm going to put quotes on those because I don't really believe I don't believe that missing things is a mistake. I believe like when the puzzle breaks that's a mistake, you know? But anyways, now we know that the 7 goes right here actually, which is amazing because we're left with 3s, 6s, and the 6 has to go somewhere in here, and 9s, which cannot actually go in the top because a 9 and an 8 go in the top over here. So one of those is going to be a 9, which is going to cross out this. So one of these has to be a 9. Something amazing about this is if you fill out every possible note inside of a box and there's only one note somewhere, that means it cannot be any other digit. So this is definitely a 6, which allows you to remove the 6 from anywhere else that you've had those notes. Like there, I had a 6 right here, I can remove it, just like that. Yeah, I'll just keep reiterating it. I know you all can see it, but yeah. So here, this can no longer be a 6, so this is a 4, which means this is a 6, since it can no longer be a 4. Yeah. Now that we have this figured out, we can go down here and figure out that this is a 6. And here we have 2 missing digits. It's a 1 and a 9 pair that are missing once again. What else are we missing in here? We are missing 2s. We're missing 3s, which I don't think we can find right now. Yeah, this is not a good box to look into right now, in my opinion. Just initially when I'm looking at it. Because there's a lot of places the 1 can go. The 9 can essentially go anywhere. The 3s can go almost anywhere. So I'm just going to move on to a different box, essentially. This box looks really good to start on. 3s have to go in there, because this 3 cancels those out, and this 3 crosses those out. Where do the 1s go? In one of these 2 spots. That's not too bad. The 2s cross out here, so it's in one of these spots. We have the 3s, the 8s. This is amazing, because now we know this is an 8, which means this is a 3, because there's no other notes, and I filled out every possible note for 3s at least. That's a 9, because it cannot be an 8 anymore, since there's an 8 down there. Which means this cannot be a 9 anymore, so this is an 8. So we have 1s, 2s, and 9s once again. And 9s can once again go anywhere. So now that I filled out every possible Sudoku combo, or note, I should say, this is what we're left with. And we pretty much just have to move on to another box and keep on solving. So the 3s get crossed off like that. So 3 goes down here. 4s are going to do the same exact thing, so that's beautiful. Which means, in this horizontal, the missing digits are 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 9s. So you'll notice if I click each box uniquely, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's one way I count to see that I have every possible combination. This cannot be a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or an 8, because all of those are inside of this box. But something that's brilliant about this is we now know this is a 2, because the note number 2 is not anywhere else in this row. And if we do that, since we can't put a 2 anywhere else here, the reason we can't put it in here at all is because the 3s go down here and the 4s go down here as well. So if you put a 2 in here, and let's say we put a 3, there's now nowhere we could put a 4. Same with if we chose to put a 4 in here, there's now nowhere we could put a 3. So these are definitely a 3-4 pair, one way or another. Which means same with this 1-9 pair, which actually deletes the 1-9 pair over here. See how it's now just a 2? Which means this, oops, sorry, that might have been confusing. This is what it originally looked like, a 2-9. Now, it has to be a 9. And now this has to be a 1. And this is amazing, because this now has to be a 1. And this now has to be a 9. Which finishes our shaded area. This crosses out all the 1s right there, which means this is definitely a 1. Trying to see anything else that we've gotten here. I'm going to leave it at that over there. I'm going to look over here still. So we need 2s and 9s still. Because we have 1, I counted that we don't have a 2. I see 3 and 4. I see 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then 9. So 2 and 9. Not sure how much sense that made. It can be kind of tricky to know really quickly which digits are even missing inside of a Sudoku box. Don't worry too much about that. This is just a process that maybe it looks like I'm doing it rather fast. To other people out there, this is slow because, like, for example, Simon and Mark on Cracking the Cryptic could probably both solve this in like 5 minutes. Like, I'm not joking. They can solve it really fast. And I can certainly solve it faster than 30 minutes, but my whole point is, if any of you do this puzzle and it takes you 3 hours or 250 minutes, whatever it is, a day, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you tried. And if you solved it, what matters is you solved it. That's why I said if you tried, because I was like, it also doesn't matter if you like can't solve it either. Like, it's all okay. I'm just trying to say that, like, the time doesn't matter. You don't have to be fast to be considered good. I think if you solve it at all, that's already impressive, regardless of how long it took you. But anyways, so this is now a 2 because a 9 is already in here. This is now a 9 because a 2's in there. So we've got a 2 and a 9. Let's see if it's probably not enough to solve that one down here, but we can probably do the 1s. Yep, so that's a 1. Let me see. Let's do 5s. Sorry, I'm itching my eye. Okay, 8s. So that's an 8. That's amazing. And we're left with 2s, 3s, 4s, and 9s. Something I can do sometimes to just speed up time for myself is to just put those all in there, 2, 3, 4, 9, and then start doing process of elimination. 2s and 3s cannot go in here, neither can 4. That actually quickly tells me it's a 9, so I can actually get rid of the 9 everywhere else inside of this box. This cannot be a 2 or a 4, so it's a 3. I can now remove 3s from the box. This cannot be a 2, so it's a 4. So this is a 2. Also, this is a 4 up there, so that's another reason this is a 2. So, like, rather than me going over here and being like, oh yeah, that's a 4, I could have also gone over here and been like, oh yeah, that's a 2. So I just want to throw that out there just to show, like, this is not the one way to solve the puzzle, of course. But yeah. So now we have a lot filled out, pretty much the entire Sudoku board. So here, this is a 3, which means that's a 2. And the last digit remaining in here is a 9, which means this is a 3, and that's a 9. Yeah. Ta-da! And that is how I solve unique Sudokus. Starting with in my opinion, one of the easier to understand rules out there. Obviously, I didn't explain how to solve any of these, but I'd absolutely love to. If there's ever a specific one any of you out there would love to see me solve, even if I've solved it already, or if it's like a new one that I haven't solved, I'd love to get into this. This is basically what Cracking the Cryptic's channel is like. If any of you are wondering, like, is Sun Sun Mushy trying to just make now a Cracking the Cryptic Sun Sun Mushy channel? No. This channel has just always been a place that I like to make videos for myself, as well as for anyone out there who might like it. And if it's not your thing, not what you were looking for, as much as I'm like, dang, I have to be honest, I kind of don't care. The reason I'm just saying that is because I've seen other channels where they'll like branch out, like channels that have like lots of subscribers, and they do one thing on the channel, and the moment they do anything different, a bunch of people in the comments will be like, you can't do that, you're supposed to be a, for example, TFT channel, you're supposed to be a whatever channel, and it's like, this is my channel, or that's their channel, let them post whatever they want. So anyways, yeah, my channel is random. I know if I wanted to be professional with it, I'm supposed to be quote-unquote on brand. That's not really why I do all this. I like just love my YouTube channel. I love you guys. I love making videos. I love sharing my experiences, my feelings, my thoughts. So long as it's with people who care about me, who wish well, who, yeah, genuinely have good intentions, things like that, I would absolutely love it if anyone like sees any like of what I put out there on YouTube. So long as you have good intentions and you're okay with what I stand for, with what I believe in, with what I share, and so forth. And if I ever do anything that triggers anyone out there or puts you on the spot or makes you uncomfortable or you don't agree with it, like, just know that, like, I am always willing to grow and learn, and I change over time. And that if I ever were to make any sort of mistakes in hurting anyone, that I love to grow, and I am always sorry if I ever do something that offends somebody or upsets somebody. And yeah, I really do wish the best for all of you out there. I do wish you all well. And if any of you were able to follow with this entire video, I very much appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And no worries if this was too long for anyone out there. But yeah, I love you all. And I'm going to end this stream now. And if any of you are wondering, like, what? You were live streaming? How come I didn't see? I did put this as unlisted so that I could just record. I wanted to just make a video, but I didn't know how to put this. Pretty much, I'm using something called Streamlabs. And to use it, I have to live stream or record. But if I record, the video file is super large and takes hours to upload. So by unlisting or privately live streaming, I can record and get this onto YouTube instantly. So yeah, much love to you all out there. And yeah, if any of you really liked this, please let me know. And I'd absolutely love to do more Sudoku on the channel, answer any questions about Sudoku, etc. I'm starting to want to already edit my screen video capture or whatever. Like, I don't know. Maybe like, oops. What the heck? I don't know if it's changing it at all. Yeah, it is. Oops. Let me just reset all of those. So yeah, anyways, I need to keep working on everything. But yeah, that's the entire thing. I should let you all go now. Take care, everybody, and I will be back with tarot readings